Germany's army commands 88 billion euros in budget, but fields just 130 combat-ready tanks. Poland spends less than half, yet it delivered 84 new tanks in months, and it overtook Germany as Europe's largest NATO force in 2024. Has the axis of military power in Europe already shifted eastward? And how did decades of spending lead to German stagnation as Poland surged ahead? The answer begins decades before today's numbers. In 1992, German tank production lines switched off for good. Factories that once built Leopard tanks for the Cold War shifted to maintenance and exports. The decision was rooted in optimism, a belief that Europe's era of large land wars had ended. For Germany, reunification meant shrinking its army and mothballing vast stocks of heavy armor. By the late 1990s, the Bundeswehr focused on peacekeeping, not preparing for major conflict. Meanwhile, Poland was emerging from the shadow of the Warsaw Pact with a military built around Soviet hand-me-downs. The real turning point came in 1999, when Poland joined NATO. Integration brought new standards and a slow, uneven modernization. For years, Poland's defense budget remained modest, and its army shrank alongside Germany's. By 2014, the numbers told a clear story. Poland fielded just 99,000 active soldiers, most still equipped with outdated gear. Germany, by contrast, maintained a larger force and enjoyed the reputation of a reliable NATO partner. But under the surface, both countries faced the legacy of post-Cold War downsizing. German tank factories remained silent, and Poland's forces lagged in technology and training. These structural choices set the stage for the rapid changes that followed. Germany's long production pause meant no new tanks would roll off assembly lines for more than 3 decades. Poland's low baseline in 2014 left room for dramatic growth, but also required a complete overhaul of doctrine, equipment, and recruitment. The events of the next decade, crises on NATO's eastern border, new defense laws, and massive procurement drives, only make sense against this backdrop. The roots of today's numbers run deep, shaped by decisions made in the hopeful years after the Iron Curtain fell. Germany's defense budget stands at 88.5 billion euros for 2024, the largest in Europe and 4th worldwide. Yet the Bundeswehr faces a readiness crisis that money alone cannot solve. Of the 310 Leopard 2 tanks on the books, only about 130 are combat-ready, just 42%. Spare parts shortages, aging equipment, and maintenance backlogs leave armored units rotating vehicles between exercises, sometimes cannibalizing one tank to keep another running. In February 2022, the Zeitenwende initiative promised a new era, a 100 billion euro special fund to overhaul Germany's armed forces. By 2024, 97 procurement projects had been approved. The centerpiece was the July 2024 order for 123 new Leopard 2A8 tanks, priced at 2.93 billion euros. But the first of these tanks will not reach German units until 2027, with deliveries stretching into 2030. Even with an additional 75 tanks announced in late 2025, the timeline remains slow. The gap between budget and battlefield capability is stark. Despite spending more than double Poland's defense outlay, Germany's procurement system moves cautiously. Parliamentary oversight, lengthy tender processes, and industry bottlenecks stall modernization. The result is a well-funded force that struggles to field modern hardware in meaningful numbers. Personnel levels reflect the same pattern. Germany's active strength is 185,000, with a target of 200,000 by 2031. Growth since 2020 is modest, just 2.8%. Meanwhile, the Bundeswehr's average equipment age continues to rise, with most tanks and vehicles dating to the 1990s. No new main battle tanks have been built for German forces since 1992, and the production restart comes after a 33-year hiatus. With billions allocated but only a fraction of assets ready for action, Germany's military power remains constrained by its own bureaucracy. The question now, can another model deliver more combat power, faster, with fewer resources? March 2022 brought a turning point for Poland's armed forces. The Homeland Defense Act became law, setting out to transform the military on a scale not seen since the end of the Cold War. The plan was simple but bold. grow to 300,000 personnel, field over 1,000 modern tanks, and spend nearly 5% of national income on defense, more than any other NATO member in Europe. The Ministry of Defense put its money where its mouth was, allocating 51% of the defense budget to new equipment. The first major move came 4 months later. In July 2022, Poland signed a contract to buy 1,000 K2 Black Panther tanks from South Korea, along with 250 American M1A2 Abrams, 460 K9 Thunder howitzers, 288 K2-39 Chunmoo rocket launchers, 20 HIMARS systems, 48 Patriot air defense launchers, and 32 F-35A stealth fighters. These were not just wish list items. By December 2024, the first 84 K2 tanks had already rolled off ships in the port of Gdynia, greeted by soldiers and dock workers who understood what these arrivals meant for the country's security. Another 96 K2s are scheduled for delivery in 2025, with the rest to follow in short order. The numbers behind Poland's expansion are hard to ignore. Active personnel jumped from 99,000 in 2014 to 216,000 in 2024, more than double in just a decade. This surge made Poland's army the largest in Europe, overtaking France and Germany. Unlike its western neighbor, Poland's procurement system moved at speed, cutting through red tape and leveraging international partnerships. South Korean technology transfer deals did not just bring tanks, they seeded local industry, promising even faster deliveries in the years ahead. With a budget of 38 billion euros and the highest equipment acquisition rate in NATO, Poland's military is not just growing, it is modernizing at breakneck pace. Each new delivery, each fresh cohort of recruits, adds weight to the country's defenses. The result is more than a numbers game. It is a demonstration of intent, backed by hardware and manpower, and a signal to allies and adversaries alike that Poland is no longer content to play catch-up. By 2024, Poland's army outnumbers Germany's, and the gap is set to widen. For every 1,000 citizens, Poland fields 3 times as many soldiers, 7.5 per thousand compared to Germany's 2.4 per thousand. This is not just a matter of headcount. It reflects a national commitment, with Poland spending nearly 5% of its gross domestic product on defense, the highest rate in NATO Europe. While Germany's budget is more than double, the bulk goes to personnel and upkeep, not new gear. Poland, on the other hand, channels over half its defense spending straight into equipment and infrastructure. The impact of this approach becomes clear in the armor race. By 2030, Poland is projected to operate more than 1,800 modern tanks, including K2 Black Panthers and M1A2 Abrams. Germany, even after new orders, will field about 400 tanks. On paper, that is a 4-to-1 advantage. But the story does not end with hardware. Sustainment and readiness remain constant challenges. Training thousands of new recruits, integrating diverse tank models, and maintaining supply lines for ammunition and spare parts all test the limits of Poland's rapid expansion. Industrial capacity is the hidden force behind the numbers. Poland's defense sector is undergoing a transformation, fueled by technology transfers from South Korea. New ammunition plants, some run in partnership with Korean firms, are scaling up production of shells and propellants. The goal is self-sufficiency, enough domestic output to support high-intensity operations without relying on overseas suppliers. In contrast, Germany's defense industry has struggled to shake off decades of underinvestment. While firms like Rheinmetall are expanding, much of the special fund remains tied up in procurement rather than production. For NATO planners, the shift is unmistakable. The alliance's largest European army now sits on its eastern flank, backed by a growing industrial base and a population willing to shoulder the burden. Yet the caveats are real. Poland's surge brings logistical headaches, from training bottlenecks to the complexity of sustaining mixed fleets. Numbers alone do not guarantee operational strength, but the balance of power in Europe's land forces is no longer anchored in the West. The center of gravity has moved east, and the scale of Poland's transformation hints at a new era for the continent's security. Today, Europe's military balance pivots east as Poland fields the continent's largest NATO force and fastest-growing arsenal. With 4.7% of GDP fueling rapid expansion, Warsaw's choices reshape collective defense, turning ambition into hard power. The real question now, who adapts fastest when security is suddenly measured in months, not years?